Welcome to Mysteries Naija. I'm your host, Esther. There's an old African proverb that says, until the lion tells his own story, the hunter will always be the hero. Stories have power. They can preserve history. They can teach lessons. They can unite people, communities, and sometimes they can terrify generations. Picture this. You're 13. It's your first week in boarding school. Your parents have just driven away to the wind, not seen you for months. You won't be seeing them for weeks. Everyone's a stranger, everything's strange. The building looks too big for your little size. You know you're going to be stuck here for at least 6 years of your life with little breaks here and there just to keep you going. By the end of the day, the lights go out at exactly 10 o'clock. The hostel becomes silent. Outside, the wind's rattling the windows. The leaves are swaying and making this whispering sound. Maybe there's this can of soda that's been outside and the wind just keeps rolling it all over the ground and it's making this tinkering sound. Quite spooky. And just when you convince yourself, no, I'm just a little anxious because I'm away from my family, someone whispers from the bunk above, "Don't go to the toilet tonight." Why? They don't answer immediately. Instead, they lean even closer and whisper two words that every Nigerian boarding school student seems to know. They lean close. "Madam Koi Koi." Suddenly, every creaking floorboard sounds very different. Every shadow looks suspicious. Suddenly, trees look like people. The shadow of a cat suddenly looks like a monster. And every footstep, even if it's by other students, sounds like a ghost that's coming to haunt you and everyone else. And as you're about to fall asleep, you hear it. Koi, 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 koi. Nothing. The sound has suddenly stopped. And all you can do is pray. The last sound you heard didn't sound like it was right outside your bed. Your prayer will be, "Lord, that sound, please let it be it ended at someone else's bed and not mine." Because according to legend, if the sound stopped right by your bed, Madam Koi Koi was right beside you. And you know better than to open your eyes. Who was Madame Koi Koi? Did she ever exist? Could one real tragedy have inspired decades of fear? Or is this simply one of Africa's or Nigeria's greatest urban legend? Well, let's find out. Were you a boarder as a student? Or were you a day student? If you were a boarder, well, how many times a week or even daily did you feel homesick? If you were never a boarder, have you spent the night at anyone's home that wasn't yours? You've been away from your family for a day or two or just one night. Whatever you felt in that moment, like you just wanted to be home, yeah, you were feeling homesick. Your parents drop you off at a school. It's a new school. You're finally in middle school. Soon you'll be in high school and you'll be done. They drive through the gate because most boarding schools need to be fenced and gated to keep the children safe and keep the danger out. They drive through the gate, past the blocks of classrooms towards the administrative office or building. You can see the other buildings towards the back. That's the dormitories, the hostels. Your parents hand you over to the housemaster and take off. You watch the car disappear through the gate, and for the first time in your life, you are completely, utterly on your own. You don't know anyone. The faces all around you are unfamiliar. And then the sun sets. If you were excited at first, that excitement is wearing off. If you were never excited to begin with, now your anxiety is heightened. You're feeling homesick. The bell rings. Dinner time. Dinner ends. Prep ends. The final bell rings. The light goes out. Everyone's in their beds, their bunks, and just chit-chatting. Then someone in the darkness gets up and asks you, "Have you heard about Madame Koi Koi?" You love, because obviously you have. You know everything about boarding system than most people, even you've done your research. Even students who are boarders know about Madame Koi Koi. Of course I know about her, but a ghost? No way. Ghosts aren't real. The older students smile. One of them sits up on their bunk with a flashlight underneath their face, pointed at their chin. If you hear high heels tonight, better not open your eyes. That's how we imagine the first telling of this legend started, with one student to the other, to the next school, for a whole decade, to the next generations upon generations upon generations. And up to this day, the legend is still being circulated in dormitories. But you know what's funny about this case to me today? It's the fact that most famous stories have origins. We know who wrote Things Fall Apart. We know who wrote Harry Potter. Who was the first to tell the story of Madame Koi Koi? No one knows. You ask one person, oh, it started at my school. Oh, my uncle saw Madame Koi Koi. Oh, my brother, my mother's sister. No one knows. But all we know is there is a ghost that is obsessed with high heels. If you ask 10 Nigerians who Madame Koi Koi was, you'll probably hear 10 different versions. And this is what happens when stories are being passed down orally or shared orally alone. Nothing is written, which means with every retelling, someone could decide to embellish the story, or some could try to dumb it down a little to make it more digestible. So there are different versions to the myth of Madame Koi Koi. There are about 5 versions that I could narrow it down to, but one thing all the versions had was always the beginning. It begins with a teacher. She wasn't old, she wasn't frightening. In fact, she was quite the opposite. Students remembered her as beautiful, elegant, almost out of this world gorgeous, always well dressed, always perfectly groomed. She wore expensive perfumes. Back in the day, things like that weren't cheap when people valued quality, because right about everything was quality. She wore neatly pressed dresses, and most importantly, the grand signature of it. She was obsessed with high heels. And according to the legend, some would say it was red heels, which in Nigeria is popularly known as Pepe Red of the Pepperdam gang, while other version would say no, it was burgundy. Other version would say actually it was glossy black. So the undisputed fact is there was a high heel obsession involved. She would always wear high heels to almost everything she wore to school. Beautiful, smells nice. Oh, that is from a distance. She's pleasant to look at from a distance, which brings us to version 1. In version 1, the story paints her as a humiliated teacher. And it goes that Madame Koi Koi was very strict, extremely strict, the kind of teacher whose classroom had to be silent the minute she walked into it. Picture your hottest teacher in school from memory. You done? But then the minute they walk into class, no one's rubbing their palms together, touching their chin, whistling, smiling goofily. Rather, everyone's sitting straight. Their backs are straight because she is so strict. Her personality doesn't match her look. And in version 1, due to how strict she was and would punish the kids, punish the students all of the time over right about anything, the school management decided to dismiss her. She was humiliated. She left the campus devastated, angry, heartbroken, and she drove away, skirt, has an accident and dies. But she was pissed at the school, at everyone, that she went back and haunted the school and the students. That is version 1, which is the most popular version you'd get from most people. But then there is version 2, the cruel teacher, which is quite similar to version 1 with a little twist. Version 2 goes, again, the beginning is a teacher, looks nice, smells nice, but strict. And one time she was punishing a particular student. She went overboard. The student was injured badly. They grabbed the child to administer some help, but the child eventually died. Angry mobsters showed up. She ran off because she believed she wasn't responsible for the child's death. The child didn't die while she was actively beating the child. They died after she was done beating them. So, not me. But because she couldn't realize her beating the child contributed to the death, the angry mobsters were out to kill her. She ran away, getting in an accident, and she died. She blamed the school management for her death because running away from them and the angry mobsters was what led to her death. She decided to return to the same place, the root of her death or something, and decided to hunt them for time indefinite. That's version 2. Version 3 paints her as a murdered woman. Same applies, blah blah blah, Beningin. The students were so fed up with her and everything, her strictness, her abuse. Just, she was too much for them. So some of the students came together, and on one night they lured her out and they attacked and killed her, then threw her over the fence. So her spirit was so upset it never left, returned to the school to hunt and torture the students that killed her, but never left. But there's a second version to this version. Depending on who you ask, they'll say, no. The students, no, they never did anything like that. Actually, she left work. She was attacked by people on her way home from work. But since she wasn't far from work, when they attacked and killed her, they left her there, and it was pretty close to where she worked. So when her spirit didn't leave Earth, saw the school and remembered that was the place she was the happiest. So she came back to the school to be with the kids and the people she loved the most, but her presence would only end up spooking and terrifying the kids. That is the second version of the murdered victim version of this legend. Then there is version 4 that paints her as the broken-hearted woman. This is by far the saddest. If this was based on a real-life tragedy, this is the saddest. This one paints her as, again, beautiful, gorgeous, smells nice, delicious. Sorry, not delicious. Elegant. And she was the nicest teacher ever. She was the best with the students, her co-workers. She was a bundle of joy. And she was seeing this man who loved her really much. He proposed to her. They planned their wedding. And about a week before her wedding, her partner got into an accident and he died. She was so heartbroken. She was filled with sorrow. Terrible, terrible grief to bear that she died of a broken heart. And her spirit got trapped between both worlds. She's brokenhearted. So her spirit got trapped between both worlds. And every night she would come to the same school she worked at and watch the young lovesters fall in love, and hoping that watching the young ones with their pure, innocent hearts falling in love or loving each other would heal her broken heart. So she never really came to the school to hurt them, but to get help. But if you ask the students who have told the world they met Madame Koi Koi, they encountered Madame Koi Koi, the story would go, oh, at the end of the day, we all retired to our bunks, and at first, you're going to hear one sound, koi, then a very long pause, very, very long pause that you might start to think, okay, it was nothing. Then you'd hear a second sound, koi, 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 koi. It keeps getting closer and closer and closer, and she's believed to be able to pass through walls or touch people, to appear in the mirror, call people's names to sound like people you know. So she'd start walking closer and closer. Everyone's hoping the dormitory door is closed. If anyone's gonna walk in, they would have to open the door. So if it's another teacher, you'd hear them open the door. But then the sound would start sounding inside the room. The door never opened, and every student knows you have to keep your eyes shut tightly. Try to hold your breath so you could hear how far or close the sound of the shoe is. Yes, shoe. She was rumored to only have one shoe on. Once the last sound is right beside you, it's believed she's standing right next to you, watching you. And if you were to open your eyes, you would immediately get attacked. But if you wanted to summon her, all you had to do was look into the mirror and call on her 3 times. Madame Koi Koi, Madame Koi Koi, Madame Koi Koi, and she'd appear. But again, don't look her in the eyes and she won't hurt you. But of course, once she appears in the mirror, everyone's scared, terrified. And we have the start of a group of students who actually claim to have summoned Madame Koi Koi. They said they went to the bathroom, they looked in the mirror, and they chanted her name 3 times, hoping she would show up in the mirror because they wanted to see what she looks like. Instead, they heard her footstep from a distance. Kept coming close. The closer it got, they started shrieking, getting so scared, holding their breath, pretending they weren't there. The sound stopped right in front of the door. They were so scared, they couldn't leave, they couldn't do anything or go anywhere. They stayed in there for hours until they felt safe enough to come out, booked it back to their bunks, and they became a believer after that. Is there anyone who must have inspired this story or this legend? Historically, there is no proof Madame Coco ever existed as a real teacher or a real person, or there was another person's life or tragedy that inspired this story that has been passed down for generations. But you know what is linked to the story the most? Nigerian boarding school culture. Many schools were strict environments back then. Students lived under intense discipline. Punishment was very, very common. Teachers and senior students held enormous authorities. Perhaps it makes sense that the most famous Nigerian ghost story would be about a teacher who was one of the revered people back then. One of the people who could punish you, highlight the soffit whenever they wanted. A teacher, someone who represents rules, consequences, and punishment. The fear wasn't really about Madame Koi appearing, because like I did say, there were some students who would claim to have called upon her to show up, but the fear must have been what she represented at the end of the day. When they saw her, a teacher, in heels, doing something they know fully well they shouldn't be doing, perhaps subconsciously, it reminds them that even after you've escaped authority or thought you have, authority could still find you. AKA, the ghost you just summoned is a figure of authority. Almost every country has a version of this kind of story. In Japan, there is the school ghost hiding in bathrooms. In America, the students whisper about Bloody Mary. In Latin, there is La Llorona, the woman who walks the night searching for her children. And in Nigeria and also Ghana, we have Madame Koi, a ghost teacher who's obsessed with stiletto, high heel. For a ghost who may never have existed, Madame Koi has lived an extraordinary long life. Decades have passed. Students have graduated. Old dormitories have been demolished. Entire generations have moved on. And yet, mention her name almost anywhere in Nigeria, and someone will have a story to tell. Maybe they saw her, or maybe they just happen to know someone who did. That alone says something remarkable about this whole legend, myth. Very few Nigerian urban legends have endured the way Madame Koi has. She has outlived the schools where the story began, she has outlived the students who first whispered her name, and she has adapted to every generation. Even if the security at the school, the dormitories today, CCTV camera and everything, Madame Koi would go through the vents because they are aware of Madame Koi. There are so many Nollywood films, books, songs, poems, and many people who are interested and have been passing this information down even before social media. This legend has lived and breathed entirely by word of mouth. But one thing is for sure, each storyteller added a small detail. Maybe I did, maybe I didn't. You'll never know. Thank you so much for joining me today. This was a short one, something quite easy to digest. No talks of blood or murder or say. And let me know what case you'd like me to talk about next time. Take care, be safe, and buy that Ring camera. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.